Yeah, hey, Jim Hart here. With maybe a simply complicated question. Revenge. Do you need to take revenge against a borderline or a narcissist, whether that was your mother, your father, and or a significant other, an ex, somebody with BPD or NPD who falsely accused you of all kinds of ridiculous stuff, horrible stuff that you've never done. Do you need to take revenge on the cluster B? Well, there's a whole industry out there of narcissistic abuse channels and empath channels, whatever. Some of them have great information, I'm sure. I don't really watch much of them, most of them, but the narcissistic abuse stuff where it's like, 15 ways to destroy the narcissist, and these empaths over here are destroying those narcissists or psychopaths over there. And by the way, everybody that points a finger at everybody to say that's a psychopath, that's a narcissist, that's a borderline, do you really know? Because more and more these words are seemingly carrying less of the appropriate, proper, meant to be meaning, which I don't agree with all the meant to be meaning in some cases, of the pathologizing of humanity, not just some people. So anyway, I think that it's really important for people to realize that nothing that a person with suspected BPD or actual BPD untreated, or suspected NPD or actual NPD untreated, is to be accepted or said to be okay. No. But if you're going to seek revenge, is that more important than actually just getting away, which is hard enough in and of itself? Is it more important to be seeking revenge because you thought you'd get a Hoover right by now from somebody with maybe like BPD or and I've seen a lot of things out there too, and I'm not saying there isn't truth to this. For many, many people, if they actually would meet the criteria of NPD or BPD, and they're not the same. But the thing is, they have overlap, but everything with overlap doesn't make everything the same. But should you be seeking revenge? Should you be trying to destroy them? Were they trying to destroy you? And this whole idea, and it has merit, that especially a narcissist, I don't think this is true for people with BPD, or most of them, but when they meet you and they get to know you and, everything's happening so intensely and so quickly, and it feels great. Doesn't mean it is great, but it feels great, right? And it portends to be so wonderful. But like it really never is, right? As people find out in very painful, very painful ways. And then often when people can open to the reality of codependency and what that really means, and the reality that if you have codependency, which most people who've been raised by a cluster B or come in contact with a cluster B or had a significant other and now the ex of somebody with BPD or NPD, whatever, the codependency is in the mix because it isn't what it was defined as I've said in many videos, decades ago. And the answer isn't Codependence Anonymous at all. The answer is the healing and recovery journey. The answer is knowing more about yourself. Because this is integrative work. At the bottom of it, the most important part is not the cluster B or how you came to understand this, or the pain you're in is super important. And the way that people, and add in limerence for many, and it's like, you can't stop thinking about them. The unhealthy bond, the limerence, the trauma bonds, all of that, the cognitive dissonance. Why does all this happen to people? Well, various reasons, right? But it doesn't all happen because every narcissist is targeting it to happen in you, or people with BPD are doing that. And that doesn't mean that lots of people, if they in fact have narcissistic personalities or aren't targeting, and that they don't transact, right? Like that their communication and their style of, quote, relating, which is aberrant, to say the very least, and always going to be painful for people, and not a good idea to do, and people need to get away from them. Narcissists as well. I will say that much and more, but I won't say, and then you need to seek revenge on them, and then you need to punish them. And what is this like latest craze phase out there? Probably not only on YouTube, like on social media, any platform. People flocking to hear what the narcissists themselves have to tell you about other narcissists or why they did what they did. It's like, yeah, okay, there can be some awareness there, but again, emotionally, there's a lot of blind spots. But that's interesting. And the other thing is, all the videos, somebody asked a question on the channel recently, can you heal from just watching videos alone? No. Videos, books work, but great. But no, because you need to take an action step. And maybe in codependent speak that I don't like, the 12 steps of codependence is not really the way to recover from codependency or these relationships, BPD or NPD relationship breakups, or if you have a parent, and or more than one cluster B in your life. You need to take the action step to really get no contact. And then somebody left a comment recently saying, well, I can't go no contact. I wish I could. I would if I could. Easy. But we have a 1-year-old child. Well, yeah, of course that's more difficult. And of course you can't go no contact. But then there's really low contact. And a whole bunch of boundaries within that people need to get into a healing recovery process to be able to understand and strategize about what does all that mean in low contact. But if there's no children involved, or it's a parent, or you are the favorite person, it's an ex, then what's blocking you from getting to no contact? Now, many things are blocking many people. But sometimes, not only is it a desire to get them back, and you want to get back who you thought they were and who they aren't, and the other part is, and or you want another chance to do it all right, as if there's any way to do that. Or for some people, it's like, yeah, I just really want them to know how much they hurt me, and that's you, and that's important too. And for other people, it really is like, I want revenge. I want a chance to really blast that person, the narcissist or the borderline. And it's like, how's it going to help you to heal, right? And I've been working with clients for 32 years in helping people to heal and recover from these cluster B relationships of all different types. Healing codependency, but the inner child woundedness, the reasons why you end up in the relationships in the first place. There's only so many patterns and dots connect. But there's so much focus. And, whoever says what on their own YouTube channel is their business, right? Literally a lot bigger time than me. But I'm just saying, it's become a business that you need to be thinking about and focusing on. Well, how to destroy this narcissist and how to do that and is it all spiritual warfare? Are these people really like, quote, demons, unquote, and you're going to give more and more of your power away to their supposed, quote, power, which is not power, because cluster Bs in some way, to some degree, if they're untreated, whatever the diagnosis, are wounded little children. And yes, they really hurt other people. They can be very abusive, and none of that's okay. But you have agency only over you. I'm not here to work with anybody that resonates with wanting to actually heal you. Heal yourself. Find your own path. Move forward. Yeah, look back a little bit to be able to move forward. To be able to get to know yourself better. Understand your emotional landscape and not... So number one reason why watching videos and reading books isn't the way to, quote, heal yourself fully and make sure that you're on a healthier path going forward, because it's all intellectual and that's very helpful. But real change happens at an emotional level with a lot of inquiry and questions and processing and grief. It's just a myriad of aspects to that process. And so when I see videos, and I don't really watch them, they just fly by in the recommended for some reason. I don't know. It's like you watch one puppy video and you'll see 10,000 of them all of a sudden. And, you know, I'm not interested in the narcissistic abuse channels. There's a couple where the information, I mean, there's lots, I'm sure they have accurate information. But then there's all this other stuff, you know, that wastes people's time and focus and energy. Like getting them back, revenge, destroying them. You know, like, I think from all the years of experience I've had in my own lived experience with healing and recovery from cluster Bs, etc., and working with clients for 32 years and having been online for almost 28 years, watching all the changes and how social media and what's happening in the world is just like everything's just sort of caving in for a lot of people. And who has the emotional, lots of people do, but lots of people don't, after all this abuse, cluster B abuse, to have the resilience to be able to understand and live and take action on the fact that you have to stop the disavowal of your emotions. You have to stop compartmentalizing them and putting them over here and over there. And I'm going to watch 10 more How to Destroy the Narcissist videos, or I don't know who's saying what about people with BPD, but like how to get the BPD, or I don't know, whatever. Why? Because none of that is going to help you heal. Isn't that really the point? I would argue it should be the point behind every YouTuber, every person talking about this, if they're not talking about they're a narcissist or they have BPD and what that's like for them. Then I would think the impetus of any information giver in the cluster B area really needs to be a solid foundation and background and years of experience in helping people to focus on what helps people to heal. And no, people don't really want to focus on that a whole lot, right? People have to really hurt a lot. It takes some people a long time. You need that no contact. People can't get to the no contact. I've always been working with clients struggling with no contact. So it's not like you have to get no contact. And for example, if you're interested in working with me, if I resonate with you, no. Often we have to strategize around that. And I've had clients say, just like people say on the channel, I am no contact now, but yesterday she texted me, or he texted me. So I think it's just way more important for people to realize that you need to focus on you. I don't believe the empath narrative. I think that people who've been really hurt and abused and hurt in childhood can become over empathic. So it's really toxic empathy. Because, I mean, after, you know, this sort of like what's healthy empathy, because when we're kids, we can feel for the abuser. We need the parent who might be the abuser, who might be a borderline or a narcissist, or even a psychopath, or comorbidity, some mix thereof. And the point is, when you're a little kid, as I know I was, because I come from a narcissistic dysfunctional family of origin, you know, you are giving power, and you need the parent to survive the younger you are. And so this all gets sort of mixed in together in the unconscious. You know, and working with someone like myself or whoever you would choose to work with in these healing and recovery journeys is all about bringing what's in your unconscious to consciousness. And that's why I would say the old definition of codependence and the Codependence Anonymous 12 steps, highly dysfunctional. It depends where you go. The co-opted 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. So if you're not an alcoholic, what do you need that for? And people with codependency, you know, when you get to that step about make amends to all the people, what are you supposed to make amends for? For being hurt as a child and ending up with a cluster B. But anyway, the focus needs to be on you. And yeah, this is a repetitive video. I say this a lot, right? The focus needs to be on you, not the cluster B. And all this noise about, I just want to finish my point about the empathy. Yes, as kids, we have empathy. We get parentified, emotional incest, collusion, all the stuff of codependency, collusion, enmeshment. We're enmeshed with the parent because we need them. And if they're abusing us, or they're not meeting our needs, or they're emotionally unavailable, or they're cluster B, then what are we going to learn except to feel for them, because we're hoping they will reciprocate. Sound familiar? Limerence. And limerence can also be driven by that very woundedness in childhood, of never being seen and never being heard. So you are dying for, you are longing for reciprocity, reciprocation. But unbeknownst to you as to why, you meaning many people, with codependency, etc., woundedness from childhood, you are going through your life with all of this in your unconscious. People are starting to become aware to varying degrees. And then people think they're empaths because they have all these feelings for the narcissist who traumatized them, or the borderline who traumatized them. It's not just, Stockholm Syndrome. It's not just the trauma bond. It's not just cognitive dissonance. It's way deep in the inculcating programming of what you were going through as a child. So why it's so important to do family of origin work and inner child healing work and actually get to know more of who you really are and how you feel and whatever happened in your childhood, and how are you going to go forward, and how to learn boundaries and assertion, and how to make your attachment style healthier, and how to make commitment, and how to not have abandonment fear. There's so much involved in this, but none of it is about trying to destroy the cluster Bs, or even all this talk about, she's the incubus, the succubus, the evils, whatever all that's about. Just like the empathy narrative, the empath narrative, as I just said, that comes from early childhood, and it's too much empathy given to abusers of some sort or other in childhood because we need them then. We don't have a choice. We get enmeshed. There's collusion. There's codependencies rife everywhere. And the thing is, you are trying to please, and if you get parentified, emotional incest, you're trying to please that parent because you're looking for the reciprocation. What are you doing in a relationship with a borderline or narcissist? You're still looking to the absolute wrong person or people for reciprocation. It's a repeating, it's a repetition compulsion, externalizing out cycle of the manifestation of what's unconsciously in your wounded inner child, the shadow, the false self. So anyway, I would just put out my 2 cents worth here. You don't need to seek revenge on a borderline or narcissist or a psychopath. You need to focus on you, which is actually one of the most difficult things in the world for people with codependency. And if you have codependency, or you're resistant to that word and what that means, then realize that people have codependency without having all the traits or all the things that you might have heard people say about what is codependency. I think that's really important for people too. So anyway, I'm going to be starting a new podcast soon, as well as continuing to do the one where I'm going to be more often than on this channel. And what else can I say? The other podcast will be, I'm not sure what I'm going to call it. I'm still formulating it. But it will have a lot more sort of like tips. 5 tips for this, 6 tips for that, 3 tips for that. How to recognize these 3 things or these 10 things. Like practical information about a lot of things. And how to change your mindset. How to, practice radical acceptance. How to get discipline. Why we need to become, many people need to become unfragile. What is the fragility within the reasons in your unconscious that you weren't aware of that you ended up with a cluster B? And if you were born into a dysfunctional family with a cluster B parent or 2, or with lots of traits thereof, or whatever the case may be, as many of my clients figure out in the work that we do together, to varying degrees in different circumstances, you need to learn, learn how to focus on yourself. So all these titillating videos about the narc this, the borderline that, the blah, 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 because they're horrible and they're evil spirits and this is the devil incarnate. And Maybe there's some of that out there. I don't know. All I do know is that if you focus your even spiritual energy on if they are some kind of evil incarnate, which I don't really happen to believe, but if you do believe that, then why would you want to put your spiritual energy into like fighting that, into like resisting that, instead of getting away from it, getting into your own either faith-based or spiritual or whatever language you would put in there process of finding out more about you and how you can heal. And you know, the number one block is the fact that you're in agony and a lot of pain. And here's the keeping it real point to this video for you. It's not all because of the cluster B. Lots is, and that's not your responsibility, right? But your responsibility is to realize, what is it that you don't know about yourself? How did you get into that relationship? And I'm not blaming you for it. There's no blame here. But until you can answer all those questions and emotionally understand, but then you can't work from codependency and the trauma bond and break it and working toward a healthy, independent life going forward on an entirely different path that takes coping skills and growing into an emotional learning about, not just learning up here, right? So 7 ways to spot this and 10 ways to spot that. And it's great. But if you still are carrying the internal unconscious repetition, compulsion, externalizing out cycles of what you learned in childhood, you can have all those things to spot and all, everything up here, and you're still going to make the same quote mistake, unquote. Because your unconscious wounded inner child is still directing you in ways that you may know nothing about. This is real. And the number one obstacle, let's make no mistake about it. Let's not sugarcoat it. Let's just say it straight up. The number one obstacle to people getting into a healing recovery process, like I'm out here to work with you if you resonate with me, is fear. Fear of a lot of things. Fear of the actual, how do I let go, but fear of letting go of the borderline or the narcissist and who you thought they were. Fear of, well, what do you mean I got to know myself better? What do you mean I have a wounded inner child? What are you talking about my family, my family of origin for? What? Because a lot of things, it's like the rug is going to get pulled out. It already has been. That's why you're reeling. But you have to figure out, like, how'd that happen and why? And it's in your unconscious. You have to bring that to your consciousness. And what is it? So lots of fear, lots of variables. But the number one obstacle to people after these relationships, or well in them still, and how to get out of them, and how to not seek revenge, and look for the 5 ways to spot this and the 10 ways, and how to destroy them, and oh, are you an empath? What does that even mean? Isn't that healthy? So the number, I'm just passionate here, the number one block to people actually doing the work is fear of their own pain. And it's the pain, like I said recently, and I've said before, it's the pain that is in the way. And it's what's in the way that is the way. And there's just no other way to put that. You can't go over it. You can't go under it. You can't go around it. You can't somehow shapeshift through it. You can't punish the BPD or the NPD enough to like make it go away and to undo it. Like have it unhappen. No. Because you're happily ever after was over there, was in the beginning, was an unfortunate, torturous, unbeknownst to you, fantasy person. And people with codependency, you are so emotionally hungry for reciprocation. And then limerence gets in there for many people. And it becomes this obsessive, intrusive thought process of ruminating. And whether you've even been in a relationship with the borderline or the narcissist or not, with limerence, people will feel love for them. And whether they're talking to them or not talking to them, or ever talk to them or not, people are suffering. All because of what's in the wounded nature of something within your unconscious that you need to bring to consciousness. So it is the pain that you most fear, that most people most fear. That's why I would encourage you to check out my 2 blubbery videos literally both ways. I was really heavy at the time. I'm crying when I found out that my mother died. One is just processing in real time. It's about an hour and something long. And why did I put that up? I forget what it's called, but like BPD, NPD, and BPD, NPD, BPD, NPD mother died, HM Hardy, something. Just, search my channel. Why did I share that? Because I wanted to show you that you can be in incredible amounts of pain, as I have been, and as I'm still processing, and I'm working through something else in my life, and it's painful. Life isn't perfect. None of us get to this hill where all of a sudden we're never going to have any pain anymore. Might not be the same things as it was, but things can still be interpreted in different ways. So I beseech you to think a little bit about how weird am I? How weird is my channel? How not popular and not really big is it? And why? Because I got a lot to say here, ladies and gentlemen, about what's really going to help you versus all that. I'm not saying people saying all that other stuff. They don't have ways to really help people too. I'm sure many do and many don't. But so I'm not comparing myself to those people. Only in this one way that I'm going to tell you straight up, honestly, keeping it real to help you heal. You need to get into a healing recovery journey, and you need to work with somebody who's an expert in this area, as I am. And yes, you're going to have to face years of unaddressed pain. And there's grief in that, but there's growth in that. There's finding you in that. There's healing in that. And it becomes rewarding when you know how to cope with it. So the number one thing in the way, let's take on the noise of all the channels and all the messages, including all my other videos, away. And let's say this one thing. Doesn't matter if it's borderline narcissist, psychopath, schizotype person. What? It doesn't matter. And you have codependency because you're wounded in childhood. It comes down to one encompassing reality that holds within it many moving pieces of what does it mean? Why is it in your unconscious? How do you bring it to consciousness? How do you work it through, and how do you heal? What does that look like? What does that mean? Well, I'm out here working with you if I resonate with you. It's the pain that you fear the most. Most people that I've worked with over the years, their number one most vulnerable place is that they don't know how to feel their feelings. They don't know how to name their feelings, and they feel like their feelings are going to overwhelm them, and they will cease to exist if they go there. And that's people with BPD or people with codependency who've been with somebody with BPD or NPD. You need to know so much more about yourself and your emotional landscape. And so I just want to put it in plain English one more time. The biggest block, even when I'm working with people, the biggest block. How do they go from talking about the cluster B, and or when we're looking at family of origin, childhood, parents, etc., what happened to you as a young child that gets compartmentalized away in your unconscious, and disavowed emotions are everywhere. And you think it's like the borderline or the narcissist that did that to you only? I mean, they make everything worse. They traumatize. I'm not trying to make any excuses for them. Absolutely not. But it's the fear. And until you realize that, and I would say, and I'm working with lots of clients, we start off where people are, I'm not going to rush you into that fear. I'm going to rush you into, can't, because you will experience in working with me, bringing what's in your unconscious to your consciousness, and it will happen in your own time and speed, right? When you're ready, and we will work on that and teach you coping skills and all of the things that go into this process. And you deserve it. So the number one block to people healing and getting out, going no contact, leaving behind, letting go of the borderline, the narcissist, and or a parent of same, perhaps diagnosis or suspected traits, etc. Not always the case for everybody. But the number one block is fear, lots of fears, but fear of your pain. And let me say it once more. It's the pain that's in the way. It's what's in the way that is the way. there's no way to heal down deep inside and really change your life going forward to have an independent, healthy way with a more secure attachment way, not fear of abandonment and all these other fears, to connect and commit to someone and to have your picker fixed, right? People are always talking about got a bad picker, pick the narcissist, pick the borderline. No, your inner child was like a radar Geiger counter thing that was like, oh, that's familiar to something in the past. And you don't know this consciously. So, fear of the pain. The pain is substantial, but hey, there's lots of ways to heal the pain, cope with it, feel the rewards of clearing all that out of you, of getting to know you better. So, the pain is in the way. Most people are afraid of the pain. How do I process? How am I going to cope with all that? What is it? And only by taking the action step to get into the healing recovery process and believe in you and invest in you in many ways, right? Yes, invest in you and focus on you. That's the way to healing and recovering, because you can't heal with an obstacle of fear of pain. You can't, like I said, you can't go over the pain, can't go under the pain, can't go around the pain. You can keep shoving the pain down, but that's not recovery. That's not healing. And many people, I think they are healed and recovered and ready to date other people, but they've just shoved it down deeper. So make no mistake about it. The pain is in the way. It's what's in the way that is the way. When are you going to be ready to focus on you and not the borderline, not the narcissist, not the billions of videos on how to get them back, how to seek revenge, how to destroy them? I mean, who are you really? So I learned this in my life. I'm a Christian, okay? Not a fundamentalist, whatever. But I have a faith and an understanding of self that I'm not a violent person. I'm not somebody who wants to get people back. And I learned a long time ago in my life, in my own healing, it's a waste of time. It makes you hurt more. So what's in the way is your pain that you fear, and that is the way. And you know what? That's the basis truth to all this and the cacophony of all of our YouTube channels and videos on said subjects. It all comes down to that. And you're taking an action step to work with whoever you resonate with and really get in that process. And the thing that I know, I can only speak for myself when I'm working with clients, when we start to get into those emotions, there's lots of ways to learn how to cope with those emotions and lots of things to do that are going to make that different than the original experience that was terrifying of those emotions, why they were driven down into your unconscious and they're disavowed emotions. And while you're walking around with the borderline X or the narcissist X and or parents, injunctions and interjections, and your inner critic is on fire, judging the living you know what out of you, you don't deserve that. Anyway, you have to take the first step, healing and recovery journeys, and you need to, yes, it's an emotional investment, but more importantly, it's an emotional investment in you finding the reciprocation and the authenticity at the bottom of who you really are under all that pain and all that still need for external validation, reciprocation, and a plethora of other things. So that's the way. And there are no 1 or 2 or 5 easy steps or things I could say, because everybody's different. But there are processes that I work with clients, and I keep enhancing those all the time. So this isn't just about if you want to work with me, right? This is also something I hope you pay attention to the message, whether you resonate to want to work with me or not, right? So really important to know that all the focus in the world, like I'm always saying, on the cluster Bs. You might need to understand a little bit more about what happened, but you need to understand a lot more about what happened for you and because of your past and your wounded inner child and your family of origin more than because of what they did. because they're easy to figure out. And the other thing I offer when I'm working with clients, I should have said this before and a lot more, is I can explain to you, pretty much a narcissist as well. I was never a narcissist. I never got diagnosed with that. But I had two parents like that, okay? And I've studied a lot, but I've lived a lot too. And with BPD, I know it from the inside out. And no, don't have it anymore, whatever. So controversial, apparently. I don't know. Bottom line is, I can answer your every question about why did the borderline this, that, the other thing. And I'm willing to do that with clients all the time. If that's where clients are at, until we can move forward, and then we start to mix the process. It's a little bit about the, family of origin work, wounding your child, what's really hurting, how did he or she hurt you, and then looking for those dots to connect. So, want to find boundaries, you want to find yourself, you want to find assertion skills, you want to find more secure attachment, you want to go from being a codependent to being independent. And to do that, there's all this pain in the way. Pain of what just happened, pain of what you might still be working with, like you're still in the relationship with a person, can't let go, waiting to be who, all of that stuff I've talked about in a plethora of videos. The number one thing is invest in you and learn how to focus on you, which I teach clients how to do. And please hear me when I say that to you. I'm not talking about your intellect. You're an adult. You know how. Like, I can focus on myself. What are you talking about? Not emotionally, you can't. Not when it really starts to hurt. You don't. So anyway, hope this is helpful to someone. It's really friggin' long. But if you haven't hooked up with my podcast yet, new one coming, like I said, I'll probably put a video up when I further conceptualize that, got the title, and I'm ready to go. It's not going to be the same as what I've done here. It's not going to be the same as my other podcast. And the codependency podcast, I'm not sure if I'll be doing that or if it will be incorporated into the new podcast. And then the last thing I like to say is, and I might have a general podcast coming as well. So, and I don't know what that would look like, but I'm really big into podcasting and really not so fond of YouTube anymore for various reasons. But I'll keep trying to come back here. But in this case, probably, like, congratulations if you're still hearing this part. I'm just saying, people's attention spans too. And I think people have, my experience so far anyways, is podcast people are looking for more long form. And on YouTube, not everyone, but most people are looking for short. Some people like long. I've had feedback on, I like your long ones, I like your short ones, I like your live streams, I don't like this, I don't like, whatever. Can't please hardly anybody most of the time. But I'm not here to please people. I'm here to help. I'm here to educate. I'm here to work with you if I resonate with you. I'm not here to please people. But I am here, especially to, help inform. And when I work with clients, to help you to learn how to please your friggin' self. And that's a really amazing, powerful place to be in life, especially with all the added challenges of life today. So, hope something I said there made some sense. Not me being against other YouTube channels or other messages. It's just that there's a lot of noise out there, ladies and gentlemen. And the more that you keep hitting play on those buttons and listening to it, I would reference to what about, the more you're just avoiding yourself. Is it maybe time to realize that? Is that like, no judgment here, is that like a horrible thing? To just go, wow, yeah, like maybe I'm watching these videos, mine, other people's, narcissistic abuse ones. Oh, they're all demons and the blah, blah, blah. Because everybody's blaming them. Well, they are responsible for a lot of horrible trauma they do to people. Yes, they are. But you're not going to get your answers from cluster Bs. You're not going to get your answers from going back and trying it again. You're not going to heal by repeating repetition compulsion cycles within codependency. I think I've said enough. It's long enough. I hope it's food for thought. I hope it might motivate somebody to get into a process of healing and recovery. And like I said, I'm out here to work with you if I resonate with you. But I know that there are a lot of people that I've got emails from over the years that really thank me for some of my messages, but they don't choose to work with me, and that's okay too. I'm not for everybody. So think about why you're not thinking about you today. Take care.